the night of the Camarillo fire, this is a good friend of mine's house actually that we're at. The fire came through the hills from over there. We'll drive over, I'll show you in a little bit how bad it devastated some of these streets. It's kind of crazy. But he saw from the news and elsewhere that his house is okay. This one next door is burned down. He heard of his, but I came back here with him that night and there was still fires all over right here. We are here with hoses putting out little fires in all these trees.
You were here doing that?
I was here that night at 10 o'clock till about 1 in the morning.
Wow.
Because he wasn't sure. I was helping him get photos inside his house in case the flames came back. So we're gonna walk down here. I'll show you what it looks like across this hill.
Whoop.
But yeah, all over on the ground back here, there's all kinds of little fires. You can see.
Yeah.
It was just, the embers were blowing everywhere. And all these trees on this hill were still on fire.
My God.
That was a giant property that burnt down over there. And then all throughout this neighborhood up here.
How the hell do these things start, man?
This one started way over in the hills that way. And the wind just blew, like literally, it skipped a whole like mile of a town almost. It was kind of crazy. And then jumped onto another hill, that's what they say. And then moved, the winds were super, like imagine 60, 70 mile an hour gusts just blowing through here.
Yeah, because I've seen like some recreations on TV, and it's fast, huh?
Oh, it's fast. It moves really fast. And again, it's because it's like jumping. So it'll hit a house, hit a tree, and then jump 5 houses forward, and then burn everything in between because the embers are blowing
right?
everywhere.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw one from this whole fire that we got going on now, where you could just see the embers, like just burning on the side of the tree, and then that could fly to something else, and then that flies to something else, and it's so dry out here.
Yeah.
What's up, advocates? My name is Vince Perry, and welcome to the Commercial Claims Show, and I am so excited about the topic that we have for you today. Wow. Yes, man, look at that. It's crazy. All right, so, in the middle of chasing fires out here in California, we got to make sure that we get food in, right?
Gotta get fueled.
Gotta get fueled, you gotta get some food, and when you're in California, you have to have Mexican food. Look at that. Oh, how's that? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, driving down the famous Pacific Coast Highway, also known as PCH. Love this road. Let's go. Beautiful. Sunset right next to us. And they're just like gone.
Yep.
It's just wild. Just gone.
Yeah, this one right here, there was an old couple that I saw just sitting in chairs for a couple hours. I drove by a few times. They were sitting there looking at their house the next day.
Look at this, just gone. Wildfires. Holy moly. Pro.
Get that special treatment.
I had been looking for an accountant for years, and I was unable to find anybody that I liked, that I worked with, and was able to do what I needed to be done to my taxes and to my accountant. Jeremy David at Noble Wealth has been a godsend to me, my family, and my company. We have saved so much money in taxes I can't even begin to describe, and he knows what he's doing. You need to call Jeremy at Noble Wealth and get yourself the right accountant, because he's the man who's going to help you save on taxes. Because ultimately, you don't want to be making money, especially if you're self-employed, and having it all go to the IRS. Call Jeremy, call Noble Wealth, and they will help you tremendously with the entire accounting process and your tax situation from A to Z. Yeah, so Cameron took me up here. Where are we at again?
We're in Rocky Peak. So this will be around Rocky Peak Trail outside of Simi Valley. This is LA County, so we're right on the edge of it.
Yeah.
You can see all of into the San Fernando Valley. Typically you can see into LA, but the smoke is kind of covering it for us. And then as we look out that way, you can see the ocean sometimes through these mountains. Right now, again, the smoke is covering it. But over all those mountains that we're looking that way, that's the ocean. So that's going to be the Topanga portion.
It's just
that's
crazy.
The Palisades
smoke
fire.
Over there, smoke over there, smoke over there, smoke over there.
These are 3 different fires going on right there.
I see that.
Right there. And then there was 2 different fires going on over here as we came up.
Wow.
And so you just got here a couple days ago, but there were 90 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts in those mountains. You see how dry it is, how much brush there is. It just blows through really, really bad. So Van Nuys Fire Department, or Van Nuys Airport is right over here. It's where they keep all the helicopters, the water drops. A couple of the airplanes are there as well. And when you're there and there's no fires going on, it's like, wow, this seems like so many. You have 18 helicopters here. But now you see, oh, there's 6 fires happening at the moment. They all need water. It takes time to get from one to the other. So I can't imagine how stretched thin they are with resources just trying to keep these under control.
Right.
Trying to keep them from moving into the houses.
The hell is that?
I was talking to people about pre-loss documentation and the home inventory that we're going to help people keep as part of tugboat service. And I was talking to the owner of this property, and I was like, do you remember everything that was in the shop?
No, of course not.
Of course not.
Right.
No, you don't remember every little tool, every little screw and piece of hardware, whatever it is. And he's just gonna, I mean, you come in here, it's mostly storage that he had in here, right? You're in here maybe once a month, right? Throwing stuff into drawers and things like that. And I mean, even in the drawer here, I was pointing out to him, I'm like, you have a bunch of hardware in here, right? You have thousands of screws. That's expensive.
Yes.
Right? And now the amount of money that was probably in here that he's not gonna remember, even if he sits down and tries to. It could easily be upwards of $5,000, $10,000 in contents, maybe more, depending on what was in here, in this tiny little storage shed.
It's cool that the numbers getting passed around. Whatever I did on that post seemed to.
Oh, heck yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, I'm getting random texts from a lot of people too.
So part of in the mastermind, we have 5 daily non-negotiables. And one of those you have to post on social media at least 3 times a day.
Right.
Everybody balks at it first, and then all of a sudden things like that start happening. It's just, I mean, if you follow Gary Vee, man, I mean.
God, follow that Gary Vee.
And
My friend used to be his assistant.
Oh, wow. What was that like?
She liked it. It was years ago. It was before he really blew up. I think it was right during his first book.
Wine TV?
Yeah, I think his first book was Crush It.
That book is another one that fucking... That book is what got me to start Commercial Claims Advocate.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was that book.
Guys, this is Vince Perry again, the Commercial Claims Advocate. I really hope that you're enjoying this content so far, because wait until you see what happens next. Stay tuned. Everybody needs an attorney on their side. So whether you're a public adjuster, a contractor, or anyone else in the insurance claims business, make sure that you have an attorney that you could rely on, that you can go to for questions whenever you need it. That guy for me for the last 12 years has been David Farber. David Farber is the owner of the Farber Law Firm, and he has been there for me from the beginning of my career until now. And I would love for him to be able to help you as well. So make sure you call him at this number here and visit his website so you can learn more about the amazing David Farber of the Farber Law Firm.
I think as a public adjuster, I think it's very clear to understand, especially like us where we've been doing it for a while, like we have a whole team. So not only are we going to represent you on your behalf, but you know, we could find you a place to stay, we could gather all your contents, and then we could be the quarterback. We're the quarterback of the whole thing. You know, even if you need a contractor once all is said and done, we just know people, like right off the bat. So my first thing is I want to start trying to connect them with as many things as possible. And then I mean you can go into the whole documenting thing where you need to make sure that you document everything. But at the end of the day, I just feel like it's important to have someone looking out for your best interest.
Yeah.
Now it's hard to convince a homeowner. You have to sort of gauge it, because it's hard to convince a homeowner that the insurance company isn't looking out for their best interest. But if you're able to sort of explain it to them in a way that's like they could understand it, where they're just like, look, it takes a lot. It's very complex. What I tell them about fires, honest to God, is that fires are just so complex. They're large losses, they're extremely complex, there's a lot that goes into it, not just in the rebuild portion, but really, quite frankly, where I think we separate ourselves most is in the personal property and contents.
Yeah.
Just too many things, like you can't do it. And normally, I don't know how they do it up here, but in Florida, that IA goes in there, he takes his photos, does an inspection, and then gives you a spreadsheet and says, here, fill this out. And now you're like on your own trying to do it. You don't know that they're gonna dissect the shit out of that too. Why not have a company or a public adjuster go out there with his team that could just document everything?
But how is that worth it? You're gonna take 10, 20% out of that. Are you gonna find that much more when you put your
again, that's tough. That's tough for me to just predict and like to tell you, because you don't know and you've never even used a public adjuster before. So what do you know? But let's just look at the facts. You've got hundreds of things that we're gonna have to put on a spreadsheet.
Thousands, probably.
Thousands of things that we're gonna have to put on a spreadsheet. You know, again, you're gonna get very convoluted. You're not gonna write up what you're supposed to write up. And quite frankly, I'm not afraid to tell the client, let's be honest, I am fully incentivized to maximize your claim. I know people don't like when we say maximize, but we are incentivized to do that. I think that's very good to tell the homeowner, so he understands, okay, you know, they are looking out for me, and they're going to try to do the best to get as much money as possible. And then then the attention's in the details to making sure that you gather everything.
I think incentives actually is a really important conversation. We can go on a tangent a little bit here, but it's one of the points that I will point out to a homeowner pretty early on is think about the incentives of everyone that comes to be involved with your claim. Like nobody has pure incentives, right?
Yes.
Like you and I have businesses that we're responsible to.
I like that.
I have a team. But let's not pretend that everyone doesn't have incentives when they walk in the door. So what are the incentives of your adjuster? Let's be honest, they're not your neighbor. They're not actually your neighbor. So what are they actually? They work for a company that you've been paying.
They gotta keep costs down.
Yeah, that you've been paying to insure your home. Now, that person, probably not a bad person, but what is that person's incentive, right? Maybe he has 20 claims to finish that week, right? Maybe he's incentivized to get yours done by the end of the day. I know when I was an adjuster, I had to inspect, when I was an independent adjuster for insurance companies, I had to inspect, write an estimate, and submit it within 24 hours, and typically by the end of the same day, right? Am I gonna miss anything?
Yes.
Almost every time.
Every time.
Right, so my incentives then, it's not that I was incentivized to minimize an estimate. I was incentivized to get an estimate off quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Those are two different things, but the result can end up being the same. I'm going to end up minimizing or diminishing your estimate by some because my incentive isn't to be thorough.
It's to get it in.
Yeah, it's to get it in. So I'll talk with homeowners and be like, let's think about the incentive. So mine as a public adjuster, if I'm acting as your public adjuster, is I want to make sure that I'm as thorough as possible. If anything can be included in this claim, I'm going to include it in your claim. I'm going to be as thorough as possible. You can call it maximizing, you can call it thoroughness, call it whatever you want to.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to miss anything because I'm going to make 10% of whatever I find in there. So I'm incentivized. And independent adjusters will try to tell you that they're incentivized the same way because they're on a fee schedule, they get paid a little bit more.
They always say that. But at the end of the day, they don't make the final decision on what's in that estimate.
Nope, they don't. And I'll tell you a little bit inside baseball from being an independent adjuster, quantity always beats quality. Meaning, if you can send in 2 estimates that are small to medium faster,
they'll take those in.
They'll take those in. You won't get kicked back. You won't have to spend the extra time. So there's a little bit, I think, of fantasy is the wrong word. I think it's a little bit of deceitfulness when they're saying that. I'm only incentivized to
write
make it bigger.
up as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll write it up as much as possible. I was that adjuster that would say that, but I also knew, you know, I don't want to have to be talking to my manager about not getting this in fast enough. I know that for me to get to my next fee schedule to make this a $25,000 claim instead of a $20,000, that extra $5,000 is going to take me another 2 hours on this estimate because I have to go through all these details. It's not worth it. Right. And again, it's not always, there's not some bad incentive even around that before. I just said it in a way that I wasn't even thinking about usually. I tried to be thorough, but again, the incentive, be fast rather than being thorough. So again, have the conversation with the client early on. What are the incentives? What are your incentives as a client? What are you trying to get? Like, do you want to make sure that every dollar that comes out of this claim, that you get every single piece of every dollar? Then maybe we're not the right relationship because if I'm involved, you're not going to get every piece. I'm going to get a little piece of every dollar that comes out of this claim.
But if you're not involved, then good luck. You ain't going to get every single piece of the claim anyway.
So that's the point. It's like if you're incentivized to get every piece of every dollar that this claim gets, that's, you know, maybe you don't want a public adjuster. If you're incentivized to ensure that you get everything that you should from this claim paid, that's where I come into play. So talk about the incentives with the client early on, and it'll help them whether or not they end up hiring you to ask the right questions as someone walks through the door. The contractor that comes, right? The mitigation person that comes. For us up here, this is the Camarillo wildfire area, really having to think about the incentives of all the different vendors that were coming through. Contents vendors, cleaning vendors, ALE vendors. Obviously, a large event like this is an opportunity for a lot of people to get business, right? And so that's its own motivation. And so as those people are coming in, as public adjusters, we'll have to have conversations with vendors to talk about the motivations at the beginning of the claim. What are we trying to do? Whose interest are we thinking about most? Is it using you and your business as a contents or a cleaning company? Or are we thinking about the insured? What do they want most right now? What is most important to them? You know, if you are going to write up an estimate for $30,000 to clean this little bit of furniture that they have, let's talk with them and see, you know, what is
salvageable, what's not salvageable.
What's salvageable, what's not.
That's a big one.
Would they rather have it cleaned, or would they rather take that $30,000 and go buy some new furniture, even though it may not cover the replacement cost value?
Exactly.
Right? So there's a lot of conversations that should be had, I think, with everyone earlier on in claims. That'll make things easier at the end, because then you can remind your client at the end or in the middle, if there's ever any friction, hey, we talked about this before, right? This is what my role is. I'm not here to do this other thing. Well,
I think it's funny too, because we are, out of all the vendors and the insurance company and all the different people that are involved in the insurance claims process, by far the biggest advocate for the homeowners, always us. Right? Isn't it funny how that works? Like, no matter who starts coming in, even if I refer a mitigation company or I refer a contents company, I'm still knowing that I'm looking out for my client first and foremost.
You have to.
No matter what, because I know I'm bringing you in, but I know that you're a businessman and you're trying to maximize your side of it as well.
Yeah.
But the difference is the more you maximize it, the worse it gets for my client.
Oftentimes,
so we
yeah.
have to like sort of play that sort of like, okay, let's kind of work with each other here
Really
to make sure
important for public
that
adjusters to
this
think
person walks away with enough money to do what they have to do.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated process.
Yeah.
It's a very slippery slope that we play.
It is.
But when the insurance company sends somebody out, sends a vendor out, you know, there's also that where they're actually doing sort of the opposite. Sometimes if the insured is getting somebody, they go way too much, and then the insurance company sends somebody and they're like not doing it.
Well, what are
enough.
their incentives? Just
Exactly.
think about I know people that were contractors on vendor programs for insurance companies
got out of it.
that would tell me, even while they were still in it, and I would have conversations. This is just a friend that was a project manager and contractor that worked under one of the larger insurers in California here under their vendor program, and they were newer, so they were trying to play nice with the adjusters that they were working with, make sure that they stayed on the program.
Right.
And he would tell me, you know, I had an adjuster call me today and tell me I had to take this much money off the drywall work, or like we were not going to get this job. It's like, wait, he dictated to you as the contractor how much you were allowed to bill for the drywall work?
Happens all the time.
The program happens all the time. All the time. And so again, another incentive, it doesn't even mean, there are certain claims where I will talk to a homeowner and be like, you know what, there may be some small reason why it's actually smart to, let's meet with the insurance company's vendor. Maybe you even use them for this piece. But let's talk with them about their motivations. Let's try and get a read on what they're trying to accomplish with this claim. How long have they been working with the adjuster? You know, has it only been 6 months? Okay, maybe they're trying to keep some and get some new business. This may not be the right one for you to work with.
Exactly.
Maybe trying to prove something.
This is quite a loss here, man.
Yeah.
This is pretty significant. Wow.
This is a lot to work through.
There's a lot going on here. Well, I hope you learned a lot of that show. There is so much in store for you in this channel. If you just fall into that rabbit hole, we've been doing this for 4 years. Click on one of these links here in front of you and see how much more you can learn on the Commercial Claim Show.